8, Scott Willis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And my question is for the Minister of Science, Innovation and Technology and asks, is she comfortable with her decision to cut social sciences and humanities research from the Marsden Fund, and if so, why?
The Honourable Judith Collins.
Well, Mr. Speaker, unsurprisingly, yes, I am. So last week's changes to the around $78 million Marsden Fund ensure our limited funding is focused on the areas of science research with the greatest potential to grow our economy while enhancing quality of life for New Zealanders. The Marsden Fund will continue to support blue skies research, but will now focus on those core science areas more likely to lead to scientific breakthroughs.
Supplementary. Does she stand by her statement that the Marsden Fund should, quote, focus on core scientific research that helps lift our economic growth and contributes to science with a purpose, end quote? And if so, is she confident that the science system will still be able to address the most pressing challenges facing Aotearoa today, when it is simply funding a narrow and politically manufactured definition of a science system based purely on economic gain?
There's a whole lot of that question that was out of order, but the substance of it can be answered by the Minister.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Look, I'm very confident that we're going to be doing even better science than what we have been doing. And certainly it's wrong to say that the entire focus will be on economic gain. Only 50% of the applications or around that will need to show that they can actually start to grow the economy and they have potential to do so. There is still blue skies research, but it will be on science.
Supplementary. Is she saying that research on housing, homelessness, poverty, poor achievement in schools, racial hatred and terrorism, crime rates, violence, discrimination, the marginalisation of groups in society, social cohesion, mental health, addiction and poor health outcomes does not, quote, contribute to science with a purpose, end quote?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to pick on any particular area that the members raised, but I will say that most of those that he's named are not science. They are, however, very important, and many of those are already funded through the funding that the universities get. If I think about things like, for instance, the Performance-Based Research Fund, the Centres of Excellence, Research Excellence and tuition subsidies. In addition to that, many government departments commission research to support policy objectives, including some of those that the members raised. Social and cultural outcomes, for example, the Treasury, Reserve Bank, Ministry of Business, Innovation, Employment, Ministry for Primary Industries, Ministry for the Environment, Department of Conservation and others. In essence, this is targeted funding for science, and it will be staying with science while I'm the Minister.
Supplementary. Can the Minister explain what she means by science?
Well, I think it's really important to go back. So, I mean, when I was at school, we learnt about maths. So we learnt chemistry, biology, physics. We learnt about science. We also understood that in order to deal with some of the big issues of the world, whether it's climate change, whether it's pollution, whether it's those sorts of issues, that we need to go to science. So, when I look at some of the things that I would like to talk to him about, and you mentioned that some of the things I consider science that have been funded this year through Marsden, mapping how viruses get into and travel around B cells and lymph nodes, that's science. Building on, producing next generation materials that can capture methane, that's science. The molecular mechanisms driving gastric cancer survival rates, understanding the role of nuclear immune systems. Yes, that's science. Unleashing the potential of titanium as replacement for precious metal catalysts for affixing to solid supports. Yeah, that's science too. And I'd also say that there's quite a lot of science that's currently being funded, but I do not think $360,000 of taxpayer money to look at what are the implications of policing climate justice activism. No, that's not science.
Supplementary.
We'll be just quiet, thank you.
Does she stand by her statement regarding social sciences and humanities research that, quote, there is actually no payback at all for the New Zealand taxpayer, end quote? Or does she see value for taxpayers in research which helps Aotearoa avoid costly climate change adaptation impacts by combining modelling and science with social research?
Well, I think I've made it really clear is that social sciences, research into those, there's already loads of funding for that. It's in various areas, but it's not going to be coming out of my science budget. I want to make that really clear. These are the things I've listed off, what I think is science. What I do not, I do actually accept that they need to be funded. I'm not happy with things like $360,000 going for big things, complex shadows, investigating intersecting stories of place, identity and erasure through large roadside sculptures in Aotearoa. And this is all about basically the carrot outside pie raw. No, I don't think that's science, sorry.
Supplementary.
Oh God, please.
How do these changes to the Marsden Fund align with the Crown's obligations under Te Tiriti o Waitangi to actively protect and promote Māori knowledge and development?
You guys know you do.
Look, what I think is really important to realise is that if there is science applications or science research applications that are relevant with Vision Mataranga policy, that's fine too. They're still relevant. And I think that's really important. But I don't think that Māori or anyone else in New Zealand, apart from a few, might be that excited about the fact that they want to look at the history of big things that were put outside towns in the 1980s. I think next thing, the member will be suggesting that we fund a study into those great big po that are around those wonderful roads of national significance. But I actually don't think that's science. Might be interesting, ain't science.
The Honourable David Seymour.
Is the Minister aware that many Māori happen to view science as a method of building knowledge by testing falsifiable hypotheses through empirical observation, and to suggest that we don't get that and are into superstition, or that the treaty requires us to be into superstition instead of science, is frankly offensive?
It's a great statement, but not a question.